The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Quick Start for this Sunday, August 11th, 2013. My name is Jim Ginocchio, Executive Vice President of Marketing for QS2. I just want to say real quick off the top, congratulations to all you QS2 champions. You guys are lighting up the board this weekend. Awesome recruiting, incredible production, and way to keep jumping on those awesome blitz calls this weekend as the marathon rolls on. It's coming up again at 11 o'clock Eastern in about 1 hour from now. But in the meantime, let's focus on the quick start. So we can get that quick start for the week. We turn to our CEO of QS2, Mr. Dan Ahmed. Dan?
Good morning, Jim. Good afternoon. Good evening, Jim. Now, geez, I've been working too hard. Welcome to QS2 Nation. Sunday night, Quantum Quick Start. We're ready to go. Tremendous weekend all over QS2 Nation. So many meetings going on. I was in Chicago there with Mike Korchewski and his group and Magic. Just great group out there. Had 110 people for their luncheon on Friday, and these were 110 people you want in the business. You want to be part of QS2, so just fantastic. He kept me running the whole time, and they have a great team started there, so we can dominate in Chicago like no other firm right now. So I wanted to have a shout out. I know he'll be on the radio show tomorrow also. So we always do our Quantum Quick Start on Sunday because we want to start our week on Sunday. We don't want to wait till Monday. Starting on Monday means you're probably not going to really start your week until Tuesday, and now you only have 4 days of the typical work week left. We like to start on Sunday because then it gives you that focus to make sure you're ready to go first thing Monday morning. And there's still time tonight to get some calls in, get some recruiting in, get some internal consumption done, some training in. So I want to make sure you know this is the day to start. Well, tonight we're going to do a little bit of a review as well as a couple new pieces in understanding how our hierarchies work with the compensation system, how our system works, and then the Power One, and really with the modifications we're making to that, how that applies and the strength behind our Power One. Here's our weekly calendar of success. Go over this real quick. Every morning, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, we have our Quantum Connection live radio show. Lasts typically for 20 to 30 minutes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so make sure you get your entire team on that. Great information, gets people started, gets them wound up. They love it. You can see Sunday we have our quick start listed there. We have a great leadership webinar Monday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern time. National BOP, 7 p.m. on Pacific Tuesday and Thursday, and then 8 a.m. Pacific Saturday. And we have product training now switched to Wednesday, right in the middle, a double dose of that, coming in at 3 p.m. Eastern time and 10 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So some great information there. A lot of times we'll put some additional training like we'll have coming up this week as well, and we'll notify you of that. Well, we're going to go through and do a little bit of a review of some of the things we covered and add a couple new points in here because I think it's so important for people to understand commissions, promotions, how the hierarchies work, everything that's necessary to make sure you understand how you are going to get paid and how you can explain to your team how they're going to get paid. We did this in Chicago on Saturday, and everyone loved the fact that they now understood how commissions, how promotions actually work. So just to make sure everyone knows, there is a one-page document in your back office. You can go and download it. It's a PDF, and it'll cover our entire compensation model on one page. The top one half will be our base compensation, and the bottom half will be our generation overrides, and then there's some explanation in the bottom as well. So very simple. You can print that off. What I'm going to concentrate now will be the top half, which is our base compensation. And you can see that it goes from associate at the top all the way to vice chairman, our highest level, down at the bottom. And to become an associate, you simply have to do 5 field training sales, and you're an associate. And you get to start at that 50% level, which means it's probably, as far as we know, the highest compensation level to start in the industry as far as our competition goes. So a lot of people that we work with will start, the competition will be at 30, maybe 35, maybe 40. We start at 50. All you got to do is 5 field training sales, and you are an associate. If you're going to then get a promotion to marketing director, you then would move up to 52.5% of commission level. And at that point, you only have to have 3 recruits directly. You have to have 9 total recruits. You have to have 10,000 business value points in your base shop in 90 days. And you have to have 25,000 business value points in your 10-generation total team over 90 days. And we'll go over what base shop means in a second. Then you can see there's a gold bar there right after SMD because that then brings you to NMD. And the gold bar here will signify executive leadership levels. Anything below the gold bar, executive leadership levels, qualifying you for generation overrides. So here's the national marketing director. You need to have 5 direct recruits. You need to have a total of 15 total team recruits. So you could have 5 direct, 10 additional team members that have been recruited, you have 15. You need to have 20,000 business value points in any 90-day cycle, and either the quick 100,000 business value points in your 10 generations in 90 days, or you can take a little bit more time, that's fine, and in any 12-month time period have 300,000 of total business value points in your 10 generations. Then you can be an SVP and EFC, and you can also then move all the way up to the highest vice chairman. And once you go to SVP, EFC, and vice chairman, you no longer have any direct recruits or total team recruits required. You now are an NMD factory. So for a vice chairman, you need to have 8 qualifying NMDs. You need to make sure you have 8 of these people that have qualified by having 5 direct recruits, 15 total team recruits, 20,000 of BV points in 90 days in their base shop, and 100,000 in 10 generations in 90 days, or 300,000 in 12 months in those 10 levels. So if you can create that, then you can become that vice chairman, 65%, and qualifying for those top generation overrides. So let's look at the hierarchy compensation flow. We went over this a couple weeks ago. I think it's good to review, make sure everyone still understands, and I did a couple little modifications for you. So always go to color guard, color guide. You are green, that's you. You're the leader, so you're green, color of money. Then you have your purple guys and gals. They're the executive level team, NMDs, SVPs, EFCs, and vice chairman. Then you got a bunch of golden little nuggets. Those are your base shop associates, marketing director, SMDs. So what is a base shop? And people get confused with base shop and direct recruits, and that's okay. We're going to explain it. So here's your team. This will be your direct recruits. These people will have recruits as well, but all we're worrying about now is that you've recruited these 5 people, an NMD, an associate, a MD, an SMD, and a vice chairman. Now, a lot of people think that their direct recruits are always their base shop. That's not true. It's anybody below NMD status as a direct recruit. So in this case, you have an associate, you have an MD, and you have an SMD. Those are all in your base shop. If those people also then recruited an associate, MD, or SMD below them, those people would also be in your base shop. So it's anyone who's directly recruited you and or below you that does not have an NMD or higher in between. So in this case, you have base shop, associate, MD, SMD, and then you have your executive leaders, NMD and vice chairman, and those people you directly recruited. So those are your direct recruits, but they're not in your base shop because they're considered executive leadership. Now, what is what I call base compensation spread? There's a base shop, executive leaders. The blue is going to be the base comp. So in this case, you'd be at a 65% vice chairman, NMDs at 57.5, associates 50, MD, marketing director is 52.5, senior marketing director 55, vice chairman 65. Now what's the base spread? Well, the base spread is the difference between the base comp. So in this case, the difference between your 65 and that NMD is 7.5. The difference between your 65 and that 50% associate is 15. The difference between the 65 and that 52.5% marketing director is 12.5. 10% spread for the SMD and no spread for your vice chairman you have because you're a vice chairman, they're a vice chairman. Now let's look how generation overrides work. Generation overrides only are received if you're an NMD and higher and someone below you is an NMD and higher. So in this case, your NMD now, you would receive 8% of generation overrides. Your vice chairman, you get 8% first generation overrides. The associate, MD, and SMD, you do not get any generation overrides off of those 3 individuals. So that's how the percentages will work. Now let's look at how $10,000 paid to the associate compensation pool would flow. If you wrote a case, you'd get $6,500. You wrote $10,000 of commissions and went to the associate's compensation pool, you get $6,500. Your NMD would get $5,750, associate $5,000, MD $5,250, SMD $5,500, and a vice chairman would get $6,500. So now here's the dollars of base spread. With your NMD, if they sold $10,000 commission to the associate's compensation pool, you'd receive $750 of base spread. That's the difference between your $6,500 and their $5,750. If your associate wrote it, you get $1,500. Your MD wrote it, you get $1,250. Your SMD wrote it, you get $1,000. If your vice chairman wrote it, you got 0 spread because they're at 65%, you're at 65%. There's no base spread. Now, generation overrides, though, you get $800 on your NMD because that's first generation to you, and you're an NMD and higher, they're an NMD and higher. That means you receive first generation. Your vice chairman, you would get $800 because first generation, you're an NMD and higher, they're an NMD and higher. But off of the base shop individuals, there's no generation overrides on the base shop individuals. So that's how compensation would flow to you. Now let's assume you had 3 legs, and you have 1 leg here. This leg is going to be an NMD who recruited an associate who has a vice chairman. This leg is going to be an SMD who has an associate. This leg is going to be an NMD who has another NMD who has an associate and a vice chairman. You saw this before. I just modified it a little bit. So here's that first leg. NMD, associate, vice chairman under you. So in this case, if $10,000 was sold to the associate compensation pool by that NMD, you'd get 1550, which is color-coded, 750 a base spread. That's your 65% contract. Your NMD's 57.5% contract. 7.5% is 10,000. Is 750 plus, because your NMD is an NMD and higher. You're an NMD higher. You qualify for first generation override, which is $800. You get 1550. So your NMD is getting 5750. You're getting 1550. Great opportunity for both of you. If that associate below the NMD sold $10,000 of associate compensation pool money, the associate would get $5,000, which is 50% of the $10,000. The NMD gets the difference between base shop spread between the 50 and the 57.5% NMD contract. You get the difference between your 65% contract and the NMD's 57.5. That's 750 a base spread plus $800 of first generation, because you get first generation overrides on not just your NMD, but everybody that's in that NMD's base shop, and that associate is in that NMD's base shop. That's the key here. So that's 1550. If the vice chairman below sells a $10,000 associate compensation pool plan, the vice chairman gets $6,500. The associate gets nothing, because the associate's not an NMD or higher. So the associate should do everything they possibly can to become an NMD so they can get first generational overrides. So the NMD above the associate gets the first generation override, $800. You then get the second generation override of $600 when that vice chairman, a few legs down, then sells a $10,000 case. Now let's look at the middle. In the middle, you have the SMD now that's going to sell a $10,000 case. They make $5,500. You make $1,000 a base spread. You don't make any generation override because that individual is not an NMD or higher. When the associate below the SMD sells $10,000, the associate gets $5,000. SMD gets the difference between their 55 contract and the associate's 50 contract, $500, and you get $1,000, which is the difference between your vice chairman's 65% contract and that SMD's 55% contract. No generation overrides because there's no NMD or higher below you in this case. Then we get a little more complicated where you recruited an NMD who's recruited an NMD who's recruited an associate and a vice chairman. So if NMD number one sells $10,000 of product, they make $5,750. You make $750 a base spread plus $800 a generation override, $1,550. If NMD2 sells $10,000 of product, NMD2 makes $5,750. NMD1 makes generation overrides of $800 but no base spread because they're both on 57.5% base contracts. You make a base spread of $750, which is the difference between your 65% and NMD2's 57.5% plus second generation $600. So you make $1,350. If the vice chairman below sells a $10,000 plan, the vice chairman makes $6,500. NMD2 makes $800, first generation. NMD1 makes $600, second generation. You at the top make $400, third generation override. If the associate below NMD2 sells a $10,000 plan, the associate makes 50% or $5,000. NMD2 makes the difference between base spread of 57.5 and 50, so they make $750. NMD1 makes first generational override on NMD2 and the base shop, so makes $800. You now at the top make the difference between your 65% contract and NMD1 and 2's 57.5% contract. You make $750 base spread and $600 of second generation overrides. You make $1,350 on that sale. So it shows each of the numbers color-coded, each individual, how they would make their dollars based on each sale. Now, this is one of the changes. What if you go many levels down? How would then compensation be paid? Let's assume $10,000 paid to the social compensation pool. Let's say you're vice chairman. You know how that works? You make $6,500. If you have an NMD below you and they sell $10,000 of social compensation pool, they'll make $5,750. You'll make the difference between your 65% and 57.5%, or $750 in base spread plus first generation overrides of 8. You make $1,550. So they make $5,750. You make $1,550. Pretty good deal. Now let's assume that SMD below the NMD sells $10,000. SMD makes $5,500. NMD makes $250. You now make the spread of $750, which is the difference between your 65% contract and the NMD's 55, and you make first generation override. So that SMD, even though it's 2 levels down, it counts for first generation because that SMD is in that NMD1 base shop. If the associate sells $10,000, associate gets $5,000. SMD above that person gets base spread of $500. NMD above the SMD gets base spread of $250. No generation override because this SMD and associate is not an NMD or higher. You now get base shop spread of $750, which is the difference between your 65% contract and NMD1's 57.5% contract, and first generation override. So the associate, who is 3 levels down in this picture, in this graph, counts as your first generation because that associate is in NMD's base shop. You get to now start thinking about how much money you're really going to make once you start recruiting people, once they start recruiting people. And we say 10 generations down, but you could get paid 50, 100, 200 people down, depending on how it actually worked as far as the base shop compensation they're getting and the generation overrides. Now let's say NMD2 sells 10,000. NMD2 makes 5750. Associate makes 0. SMD makes 0. NMD1, 3 people up, makes the first generation override, and you from NMD2, which is 4 down, make the base shop spread of 750, which is your 65% contract, and the highest contract below you in that line, which is 57.5. So you make 7.5% of 10,000 plus. You make second generation $600 override, 1350. Even though NMD2 sold that, and that NMD2 is 4 levels down. If vice chairman sells this way down there, they make 6,500. NMD2 makes 800. Associate makes 0. SMD makes 0. NMD1 makes 600, and you make 400. Now, let's look at what happens if you get this vice chairman, who now is a big producer and builds a huge team of associates, and $1 million is paid to the associate compensation for over a year, let's say. So now you have all these people in the line, and the vice chairman built a huge team. Well, here's what's going to happen. If the associates sell $1 million of associate compensation pool money, they're going to get paid $500,000 split between them, however it is. The vice chairman's going to make a 15% spread, the difference between 65% and 50. That vice chairman will make $150,000. NMD2, right above the vice chairman, will make $80,000. First generation, 8% on $1 million. Associate makes 0. SMD makes 0. So those people better do whatever they can to become NMDs as quickly as possible. NMD1, way up there, makes $60,000, and you make $40,000 on that group that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels down. Truly 6 levels down, you're making $40,000 on that $1 million of business going through. That's why you need to start thinking about building your team, making sure you understand that you don't want to give away promotions. You want to keep people in the promotion levels that they've qualified for, and it means a lot of money to you. Well, let's look at the success system simplified. We talked about it before. First, you create your list, you recruit the new associate, you complete internal consumption, help that individual become a product of the product, help the new associate recruit 5 associates, complete 5 field training sales, repeat as many times as possible, teach your team to duplicate that as many times as possible. Very simple. Truly 5 steps with duplication, replication coming in at 6 and 7. Very simple. Now we talked about the Power 1, and we've done this many times. The Power 1 recruit is, let's say in this example, you're an NMD, you recruit John, and now you perform an FNA, financial needs analysis, and sell John a $3,000 internal consumption sale. That means you're going to make $1,700 in this example for that one sale. But then you're going to help John recruit 5 new associates, and you're going to perform 5 field training sales. Each of these sales, based on a 33% average spread to you, would be $1,000 of compensation. So that means in this example, 1 recruit equals $6,700. 1 internal consumption sale of $1,700, and 5 1,000 field training sales equaling $6,700. Now let's look at the first lesson of leadership we talked about. When someone joins QS2 to become a do-it-first leader, they're going to need to buy their own life insurance policy, because you can't ask people to buy life insurance from you if you haven't purchased yourself. So you just cannot ask people to do what you're not open to do. Assume you purchase the plan that fits your needs and it costs you $250 a month, $3,000 a year. Option 1, if you complete just 1 Power 1 recruit cycle with that same $250 a month premium, you're going to make $6,700. If for some reason you don't complete the full cycle, but you make 2 internal consumption sales with that same $250 per month premium, you're going to make $3,400. So in either case, that's enough for you to protect your family, to pay for your own plan, to protect your family, and become a do-it-first leader. Let's look at the QS2 system, success system simplified when we add a spouse to it. Create your list. Recruit the new associate, complete internal consumption, product of the product, and make sure not only the recruit gets a nice life insurance plan, but the spouse is covered as well, so the whole family has protection. Help that new associate recruit 5 associates, and then complete 5 field training sales with those new recruits plus their spouses. Repeat as many times as possible, and teach your team to duplicate as many times as possible. It's going to look like this. You're an NMD, you recruit John, and then you're going to also perform an FNA on John and John's spouse, and that would then provide 2 internal consumption sales, 1 to John, 1 to a spouse, which is then $6,000 at commission rate of an NMD. You'd make $3,400 in that example. When you do 5 recruits, you help John recruit 5 recruits. You now do a field training sale on that new person that John recruits plus their spouse, on that second person John recruits and their spouse, and so on, increasing the compensation from $1,000 to $2,000 because you've sold 2 policies instead of 1. So that now means Not only does it mean that one recruit equals 12 sales, but one recruit equals $13,400, $3,400 in internal consumption sales, and 10 $1,000 field training sales for $13,400. Awesome way to have the opportunity, the power to double your income. Well, the power of one recruit. How many recruits can you put through the system? You're not going to just put through one. You're not going to join QS2 and just put through one. You're going to put through a certain number over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you really have to decide in your mind, how many are you willing to put through the entire system? Not just one step, not just 2 steps, but how many people are you willing to put through the entire system? And if you just sold one plan to the people, the person you recruit, plus one field training sale to each one, then if you recruited 10 people, and put them through the system completely, as we showed it, that's $67,000. If you did 50 people, that's $335,000. If you did 100 people, that's $670,000. Maybe it takes you 5 years to do 100 people. You're still making about $130,000, $140,000 per year just with that. What if you could do 500 people and you made $3.3 million? What if you could put 1,000 people through the system in its entirety over the next 10 years? 1,000 people, 100 people a year you go through. Internal consumption, 5 field training sales with 1,000 people, 100 a year. You make $6.7 million over that 10 years, or $670,000 per year. Very few people in the United States make $670,000 average per year for 10 years. Literally, that's all you have to do. We're giving you the map. All you have to do is follow this, and you can do this. But what happens now? How many recruits plus their spouses can you put through the system? Remember, the compensation doubles now. So if you can put one individual through the entire system, and you include the spouses for sales now, that's $13,400. What if you can put 10? Can you imagine just putting 10 people through the system, the full system, one internal consumption sale to the husband and the wife, 5 field training sales to the husband and wife, and you do that 10 times, and you're making $134,000. Have you ever seen an easier way to make over $10,000 per month? That's all you have to do, 10 people through the entire system. What if you put 100 people through the entire system? You're making $1.3 million. What if you put 1,000 people through the entire system? You're making $13,400,000. Again, what if it takes you 10 years to put 1,000 people through the system? That means you're averaging $1.34 million a year for 10 years. Very few people average that in the United States over 10 years. You can do that. We're giving you the guide. All you have to do is follow this map, and you can make it. It just depends on how committed, how dedicated you are in putting these people through the system. Do not deviate. Do not be distracted. Don't think of anything else other than putting the people through the system. So that is tonight's Quantum Quick Start. Hopefully you got a lot of information out of that. A lot of it was review, but there's some new information in there, especially how we're adding on to the spouses, making sure that when we go out and we sell one spouse, we want to make sure both spouses are covered. Otherwise, the family could still be hurt. Also want to make sure you understand that when you recruit big players, many levels down, it's still going to benefit you financially tremendously, and it's going to help you build that big team. So everyone have a great night. We look forward to talking to you next week, and we'll see you on the Quantum Connection Live radio shows. Bye-bye.